think in a previous life, you were a stage director.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Built
I move everything
stages,
around in here.
put everything around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the whole place changes all the time.
I want to use you because I want to put you in front of the camera.
Okay.
You sit here, please, and hook toes here. So I want to take this sensation that somebody could tell about in their hands from round to curl. And especially with guys, I got to make a sensation with a guy where a guy can say, I feel that, to get past just the thinking thing. And so you're here, do genie arms. Inhale, lean back, straight back, lean back, open your mouth, exhale, come forward. And I get that going a couple times. And I direct now, feel in here in your hip flexors, how that feels. And then I say, okay, now lean back, squeeze the brick to cause the exhale to come up. And generally a person will say, that feels really different in my hips. Because there's more muscle engaged and it's easier and it's not just all plain hip flexor. Good. Thank you. Stay there a second, arms down, rest. So that builds a sensation of, gosh, I really do want to have a curled grip. And the thing that gets you into the curled grip is adductors. You got to use your adductors to get the rotational dynamic, and that creates the condition of core. Okay, stand out here, please. And I usually say to the guy, don't hurt
Step
me.
on his crayon.
Fingertips out, palms up. So, American Indian wrestling, one version of it is to say 1, 2, 3, go, and then the objective is to bend your opponent's wrist backwards until they say, I give, because that can hurt.
Yeah,
And
frontal.
to the other way. Yeah, see. And once my wrists are broken, there's no way to get it back. So not only do you need a good grip, but you need a good attachment to the grip. And that's where I bring out this, and the whole front row backs up. You're all worried about it. But really, it's the biggest way I use the whip is to show that the whip connects to the spine, and it's the hips or your core or the strength of your powerhouse that directs the rest of the whip. And so that wrist strength has to connect to the rest of the body in order to give you the strength up through your spine. In Pilates, we learn how to be fluid in our movement. And then in martial arts, you learn how to take the fluidity of the movement to snap, just like the whip. Can we make more air?
More air.
I got it.
Yeah.
I know where it is. I'm going to be familiar with this place. You okay, everybody all right?
Sure.
Huh?
I suffer from hot flashes. I'm great.
We're on a roll.
Woo, you got it.
So I think I'm making the point that we make rotation at axes in the body, blah, 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 and that those axes interact with each other to make tension, and from that tension it makes alignment sensational, which is a huge thing because instead of talking about it, you can say, do something to find a feeling of it. And sometimes in my workshop demonstration or description, we're talking about ribs to buttocks. And you know, people that are into body work want to know what the heck do you mean ribs to buttocks? The ribs are here and the buttocks is here. But the ribs have to pull down to connect into the buttocks or the ribs to hamstring, glutes, right? And so the strength of the shoulders is this way, but then the ribs transverse primarily, pulls through, connects to the hips. And so this whole oppositional tension of shoulders back, the ribs pulling down, connects hips to shoulders. And this is much easier to see and feel than the hips to the shoulders. But ultimately you want it all to connect because we're after uniform engagement to get in Pilates the promise of uniform development. I bought the battery, so I should use this. I used you last time. What is this? I can't figure it out. The girl in England says, I believe it's a torch. I said, a torch? No, she says, a torch. You know, a torch, because they call flashlights torches. I go, really? Well, how do you turn it on? How do you turn it on? Amazing. Way to go. How did that happen? Is there a spring in there that makes it work?
I flip the switch.
Yes, but was there a spring that makes it go?
Must be.
Oh, come on now.
It's a sky now.
But look, there's battery power, right? There's batteries. So batteries are the ability to make rotation. But when you set that battery power, or that ability to rotate around two different axes, it creates an energy, and that energy is a uniform energy. So what we're looking for in the body is the same thing as a fluorescent lamp, in that we create tension at two axes, and between those axes we get uniform engagement. All right, that was worth it. $4.67. So in my app, do you have an iPad or an iPhone or any eyes thing?
Nope.
If somebody else has one, you can download my app for free that explains my view of Pilates, and it talks about 1 point, 2 points, back to 1 point. And the 1 point is about the condition of core and the rotation around the axis, and the 2 points is about, it takes 2 points to make tension between those points, to feel alignment, and trigger uniform usage. I got totally scalded for one of my YouTubes where I'm making all my sign language. But obviously she's American bred and never been out of the country, because the more I talked in countries where I had translators, the more I would make some kind of gesture, and everybody got the gesture before the translator said the words. So I finally just formalized some of the key elements of my view in sign language, and so there's an app for sign language there. But the 2 points we're okay on. We've covered that. It takes 2 points and all. But back to the 1 point. I was so lucky. Right there on Riverside Drive is a toy store. And I walked in and I said, do you have, I need those back. Do you have Chinese yo-yos? He said, well, yes, of course we do. Aren't those cool?
Sure.
Huh?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It has been a while.
Yeah. It has,
My
but you,
kids were in elementary school.
you are a toucher, aren't you? I'm going to touch you.
That's why she's in the song too.
I
That's what we were
guess
talking
so.
about earlier.
What'd you say?
I said you're a mess.
I'm a
You're a
mess?
mess.
I'm a creative child in a playground.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
There you go, yeah.
Yes. If I moved all that stuff, you'd lose some of those thoughts. I mean, you can see that, inflection point, and Cornu, and what defines a circle, and the top thing.
The top thing I see, but you know, everything you did here I see here.
Well, good.
So you actually could have been standing up.
The point of my presentation is to show the evolution to how it got
Up
there.
there, yeah.
And
Got it.
so that's why I'm sort of doing that. Maybe that's unnecessary. You could have just drove them by, and I could have been out there on the streets, and,
No, they
and you'd
wouldn't
have gone,
have
I
got-
see that.
They wouldn't have gotten that from that.
So the hip axis is like this, and the shoulder axis is like this. But I can't put my legs like I can my arms, unless I'm totally flexible, right? Meaning, if I were totally flexible, then if I tuck my hips, it would do this, tucking and arching this way, there's rotation in the limb. And the rotation between limbs, or between axes, makes cornu tension. I haven't explained where cornu came from yet, the word. But it makes cornu tension, and that makes alignment perceptible and allows you to trigger uniform usage. But there's more to it than that, because the reason dancers get hurt all the time is because all they're taught to do is externally rotate. And so all they're doing is rotating to an end of range. And because all they're doing is rotating at end of range, they get injured because there's nothing to support that position. It's not until you create torsion, where you rotate in different directions along the same axis, and you get torsion. So you go to the beach and you walk, somebody throws your towel in the water, how do you get the water out? You twist it. And so it's from the twisting, and I can see you're thinking muscles, you're twisting to expunge the water because it's what works best. And in terms of engaging musculature in an axis, I like the blocks there like that. It's better than a wooden thing that moves around. So the normal strength in the hips is in tucking, or, see, I hate to say the word tucking, because it's not a movement of the bones.
External rotation.
Pardon?
External rotation.
Okay.
Is it not?
Yes.
It is.
External rotation of the limb.
Okay.
But the way you turn on more muscle and the way you achieve alignment, the strength of alignment, is through torsion. It's in the torsion.